Welcome to Pebble in the Pond for Instructional Design by David Merrill. This instructional design model is content-centered, using real-life problems while activating prior knowledge. Learners will also have the opportunity to apply and transfer new knowledge. The first step is to specify a problem. The pebble being cast into the pond is the problem or task that the learner will learn to solve or accomplish.
Ripple 2 is progression of problems. The designer identifies a progression of tasks or problems of increasing difficulty. These will help the learner acquire the skills or knowledge to be taught. Ripple 3 is component analysis. The designer identifies the knowledge or skills needed to solve the problem or accomplish the task of the pebble.
Ripple 4 is instructional strategy. The designer determines the instructional strategy to be used to teach the learner the knowledge and skills. Ripple 5 is interface design, putting it all together and finalizing the design and materials needed, applying strategies, problem, and knowledge to the delivery system.
We added ripple number 6, which is assessment. The assessment shows that the learner successfully gained the knowledge and skills desired. Ripple number 7 is reflection, and reflection is an important part of the design process. Taking the time to reflect on the learner gaining the desired knowledge and then redesigning and modifying as needed is an important part of instructional design.
Instructional design provides a process that identifies the training needs as well as the learning needs of the student. Instructional design is said to be a technology. Technology is defined as a technique to solve problems. Technology involves steps and the specifications at each step. These specifications are what each step is to accomplish, or the learning that is supposed to occur at each step. Merrill's Pebble in the Pond model has expanded the field of instructional design. It has looked at successful models and developed something called the first principles of instruction. These principles of instruction promote instruction which is more effective and efficient. The Pebble in the Pond model has made significant contributions to design. It provides a starting place with a problem, and then you analyze the problem, you come up with a strategy, you design something to test or use like a lesson, and then you produce it and you test it. This is also an important part of the making process.
In our research papers, we all identified a problem and then wrote essential questions in order to investigate that problem. The problem is the pebble. The problem is what we will teach the learners to accomplish by the end of instruction. The second ripple is to identify a progression of problems. We've identified different compounding approaches, the smaller battles, to solving the big problems throughout the course of our action research. The third ripple represents the knowledge and skills we want our students to learn throughout the course of our action research. The fourth ripple is to determine the instructional strategy that will engage learners in the problem and help them gain the knowledge and skills to solve those problems. The use of instructional strategies has been determined at the beginning of our action research, but also has been used consistently throughout our study. The fifth ripple is interface design. This means that the content to be learned and the strategy we have chosen to engage our learners has been adapted to student learning. In regard to our action research, we may move between the different ripples as we readjust and redefine our instruction.
It seems like the Pebble in the Pond model goes hand in hand with PBL design. Both are centered around real-life applications of skills and knowledge. Clark also supports the idea of having students act out real-life scenarios to enhance student learning. All learning stages should fit seamlessly together, and students should be able to move effortlessly from one to the other, just like ripples in a pond. Teaching the basics first is important. Educators should grow students' knowledge base over time. When teaching languages, prior knowledge is essential as language builds on itself. Students learn best when fully immersed in the language and culture. Authentic real-life situations help students acquire new language more readily.
In making connections with Merrill's Pebble in the Pond model to other models we've looked at so far, it's interesting to consider the varying central starting points from which each model begins. Merrill's Pebble in the Pond model begins with a task or problem. Clark begins her process with a needs assessment that asks who needs training and on what. Durbin's model begins with an individual and their circumstance. The circumstance or situation finds the individual facing a gap or discontinuity in information. The SITE model begins with the learner in an educational context with consideration taken of the learner's unique sociocultural, technical, and informational subcontexts. In final comparison, rather than an instructional design process, Baggio in her first chapter reveals her focus on teachers' new role to facilitate an environment that supports the construction of knowledge. She then proceeds to give all the best practices that will help us to do that.